All right, and welcome everyone. Thanks for putting up with everybody's. We got everything started. I'm Shelby Blakely. We're recording this. I'm the group leader. We're doing Army Team Crew Case, and let's dive in. Has everyone read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, what they're asking us. Let me see. Plan ahead. Sorry, that's doohickeys. All right. I know. But sorry, Kitty, you missed it. I have 4 cats, so one of them's whining. Okay, so, all right, so, start the math, All right, here's the part 1 questions. Why did the varsity team lose to the JV team? That's the first thing they want us to start looking at. Anyone?
Well, I think it was definitely a lack of unity. Like right from the beginning, the varsity teams, pointing fingers and saying, no, like it's so-and-so's fault. We should have won by more. Whereas the JV teams just congratulating each other and they're happy to have, done well together.
Okay. Let's see. Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly not a physiological problem. It's a psychological problem with the team not being unified or on the same, not being team players. They're physically able, but mentally lacking.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, to me, it's kind of like an entitlement versus a humility aspect, because there's such a big divide of like, are you on varsity? Are you on junior varsity? And it's so competitive that the varsity teams, they feel entitled to it, and the JV teams are hungry for it, and that breeds humility.
Well, did you guys watch the thing from Elder Bednar?
Yes.
I love that. Love it.
I actually have an email into the teacher of trying to figure out how I can download that copy so I can have that copy offline, because I got some family members that want it.
It's hard. There's a transcript, but the video you can't find anywhere. Anyway, Elder Bednar talks about this. He said, in leadership, you have to focus on outcomes. And that the varsity team couldn't see the outcome. They were focused inward and on themselves and their individual strengths and weaknesses, and the end goal was out of sight for them. They were too focused on the little minutiae, but the outcome wasn't clear in their minds, at least in my opinion.
I think Dallin A. Jokes called it get caught up in the thick of thin things. They forgot the overarching mission, and so they were reduced to the petty squabbling that really undid them.
Right.
Let's see. What role did trust play in the problems the varsity crew faced? Well,
they didn't trust each other.
Yeah, they didn't have trust.
I think they viewed each other as competition instead of teammates. Because there's an organizational communication class. It's a COM 250, I think. And it's a really fascinating class. And one of the things it teaches is that all organizations exist as a subculture of the culture they exist in. And so if you kind of want to look at, root cause analysis, like what made this possible? Because this is as teammate as things get, but why are they viewing each other as competition? This is Army crew. This is military. This has that culture has a level of conflict and pride that may be greater than other organizations in our culture. And so when you have that emphasis on you got to be the biggest, you got to be the best, that's eventually going to bleed over into the personal relationships. And I think that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more, actually. I
I think that was right on. I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all know military. It's cliche. So let's see. How did the rivalry? Let's see. Is trust in the team? Okay, so is trusting other rowers necessary for the cruise team success? Well, I mean, I think so.
Have you guys ever played team sports?
Yeah.
Not by choice.
Well, this is something that you kind of have to experience to understand this concept of working as a team. You know, on a basketball team, I love basketball. You have to play as a team, and you can tell teams that work together and know how to play each other or play together and trust each other enough to pass the ball or to give the experience. Mentality is, it's really hard to get, and you don't do, and just from experience, you can't get that team mentality just from practicing. You have to do things outside of practice, like eating together, maybe even sleeping like in the same area, living together, being around each other frequently in other circumstances besides that, doing team building activities, doing just being with those people and the bonds form. And it's not just, well, I'm going to show up and do this team thing today. It's a way of life, and to get to that level of unity, you have to start with all those things, you know, like eating, sleeping, all the things you do every day. Just when you're around these people, you know, that's kind of my solution right there. That he should have started a long time ago.
One of the things I thought was cool was how they did that exercise where they closed their eyes and had to row. Because I thought that's like the ultimate test of, you know, teamwork and like seeing each other as just one working together for a common goal instead of, you know, being so separate and just thinking I want to win. That kind of forces you to have that team mentality.
Yeah, I think there are no shortcuts to developing meaningful relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think if the team got to know each other more, they like their heart, their criticalness. Sorry, having trouble with words today. But like they wouldn't be so critical of each other, because I think a lot of times when we're critical of others, it's more so just a lack of understanding who they are and what makes them tick. And that if the team had been doing these things that all of you shared, you know, spending time together outside of the time that they spent practicing, then maybe they would have come to see each other for who they really were, and they would be more understanding of, you know, little idiosyncrasies that were bothering them.
So what do you think that, so as we see the trust fracture the team, like, you know, you've got the JV team, they're trusting each other, they're working, that system is banging on all cylinders. But the varsity team, you can see the cracks as it goes more and more through the season. And at the end, he's got to swap out the boats. So what do you think, when he had to switch them out, what do you think that proved? Like, what did that achieve?
I don't think it's addressing the real problem. And I don't think that he's fully grasped what the problem is. And he's obviously focused on the outcome of winning when maybe his focus should be on the outcome of these people's lives, his teammates' lives, you know? Where is it really all about winning? Yeah, like it probably has a lot to do with his job, but the actual people in their lives, you know, people over programs. If you take the focus off of that and then focus on these men and their lives and their worth as a human being, and their, you know, maybe by doing that, I don't know.
I mean, no, you're exactly right. And what the thought that came to my mind was, as you were reading off that list of what they need to be doing, That is as counterculture to military as you get. They are systemically in the business of reducing people to slag, okay? They don't value humans for their individuality, and they never have.
True. That's a very against their culture and
Yeah.
mindset.
So it's actually kind of interesting. So like, so what that means is like, so you're telling me that military culture is incongruent to teamwork, yet you require them to work as a team to win wars. That's not going to work out well for all y'alls in a little bit, and I'm real sorry to be the one to tell you that. So.
Well, I think as well, it goes back to that one video that we watched that he had posted on the announcements board about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that the varsity team lacked. They didn't have any leaders. And I think that if they had, even just one leader who was that kind of leader that that man talked about, that they're willing to do anything for him because they're sure that he would do it for them. And I think just the difference of one person stepping up, and that can make a huge difference in the overall attitude of the team.
Yeah, I had that thought too. There's not one real person who stood out as a leader.
So the next one I was thinking about says, how did the rivalry between two boats influence varsity's performance? And I was very what was the name of the book? I'm sorry, it wasn't a book. It was a business article, but it was some sort of article kind of detailing how the wheels had really come off at Sears Corporation, and because they've been like, internet and their brick and mortar, and like the retail apocalypse is upon us, and like store closings and a lot of problems like that. But they brought in a new CEO, which wasn't a great move, and this guy just destroyed the culture at Sears. He basically pitted the departments against each other to try to drive up sales or whatnot, and he just really kind of poisoned that atmosphere by forcing competition between what was supposed to be teammates. And as a result, the profitabilities the wheels are really coming off at Sears, and they've been able to directly trace it to this guy's competition idea. So yeah, just for whatever that's worth.
That's really interesting.
Let's see, is fostering okay? What other factors besides those listed, like the original ones? What other factors do you see? And I think we went over that with culture. Anybody have any other like possibly overlooked causes or root causes?
Pride. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not.
Sorry, go ahead.
Worried about saving face as a varsity team. They were, caught up in this idea of having a mentality.
Yeah, I'm reading this last bullet point. It says, should the coach have stepped in to provide better leadership himself, or should he have encouraged one of the team members to provide leadership? And I remember the Bednar talk, the HR talk. And remember how he said, like, from day one of being the Chernobyl version of the stake president, like huge stake, but lots of problems.
Yeah.
Was your job is to train dozens of people who can replace you. And it's like what you leave. Now, varsity guys are seniors. This is their last year. This like the stake president who's like about to get released. And it's more important then than when you show up what you're leaving. So these guys are supposed to be leaving better, and they're not. And the coach isn't stepping in to say, hey, look at what comes after you. Like the coach isn't looking down the road. Varsity isn't looking down the road, because this is supposed to be their hour. Because if you look at the culture of it, varsity is the people who have been there longer. And I'm like, but in the church, in the Lord's way, the people who have been there longer are supposed to be more interested in what they leave, not less, and worrying about this is my crowning year because I'm a senior. The flow's reversed. That's why it sucks.
I wonder too with the team, is it the team mentality that kind of contributed to that poisoning of their minds? Or because I wonder individually, do each of these people have that thought of, do they, like, what would they say a good team is made of? And individually, could they make a good team? But when they put together and now they have this, like, I'm better than everyone else, do you think that those group of people being together could contribute to that mentality? Or are they all just like individually they don't have, they're missing that? They don't think.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of reminded of there's a movie I think I watched called Margin Call. It was about it's a fictional tale, but it was involved the inner workings of a major investment firm right before the 2008 housing crisis, like right before like Wall Street and everything imploded and went completely sideways. And it really talked about the culture. The Big Short is another one I'd recommend on that, although it's you really need it on Clean Flicks, but it is one of the most educational movies I've seen in a long time. But what this coach did to the JV and the varsity team is the same thing that the banks did to each other. And it just caused this incredible spiral of greed, and everyone got stupid, and then the market imploded. So I just kind of see similarities between the coach not stepping in, the coach saying, hey, yeah, how are you going to beat these other people, instead of how y'all going to pull together? Because that's the point of that team, is how do you all pull together? But that stops when the oars leave the water. No wonder it didn't work out for him. All right. Well, that's great. That was, I think, what the coach should have done differently. I think we just identified, well, that was going to work out. What should the coach do now? What do you guys think the coach should do now that he's made this bag of crazy?
It's a little late to throw a Hail Mary.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say try better next time.
In the business case I wrote up on this, I just glanced at it, and it says, what do you think I should, what is your solution? And I said the exact same thing as try again next time. You put tomorrow in the win column, today is a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, I mean, he's really wanting to change the mentality of these teammates. He could, try to do some last minute team building exercises, do like a team retreat somewhere, but I mean, there's really no.
I know, I kind of, like I was saying kind of earlier, I kind of wonder now if he needs to focus more individually on, like, just, okay, I just need to get this message to you as individuals so you know for the future how to be a better team member, rather than, focusing on those particular members getting along better. I think it's the principle, the mindset that he needs to, like, tell them is important, get that through to them.
I feel like for the teammates, it's got to come from within themselves, because, I mean, the coach already tried to have them figure out the problem and solve it themselves. But if they're not interested in changing their attitude or interested in helping the overall team and humbling themselves in order to do that, then it's kind of a lost cause. So it all depends on the attitude that the teammates come back to the meeting with the next day. If they've, really taken some time to think about it and they're willing to make changes, then that's great. But if they still have these walls up that it's everybody else's fault and not my own, then you can't go very far with that.
So let's hold on. Hold on a second.
Hey, I'm actually recording a video right now. Could you maybe not do the piano? I appreciate it.
Sorry, there's 4 kids here and they're all homeschooled. So, okay, so, all right, so here's the cool part. There's a follow-up. If you look at the team leader, CNN did an article on this, and it's just like, it was just a little blurb, but it has the resolution, which I didn't have the first time I looked at this case, so I'm super excited. All right, and as I read this, I'm laughing hilariously, because the solution is all boy. Like, who here has boys? Like, who here has boy children?
I have one.
Yeah? One? All right, all right. How old is he?
17.
All right, so you know. All right. So boys beat the snot out of each other constantly, and they may or may not bring weapons. I don't know. It really depends on how well you hide them as a boy mom. I've had 3 boys. My house is feral, okay? They grew up on a farm where I have had to utter the phrase, do not ride the goat. So what this coach did was he lined the varsity crew up in 4 pairs. And he told them that they were to wrestle, no punching, for 90 seconds. And so they all go at it, and there's no clear winner. Each man was discovering that his opponent was just as strong and determined as he was. Then he changed the opponents and wrestled again. By the 3rd round, they started choosing their own opponents. Like, some guy walks up to another guy, goes, "You!" and they go at it. And then one of the rowers started laughing, and they all piled into this complete melee, like 8-on-8 general brawl. After that, they said, "Hey, coach, can we go row now?" And after that, the varsity boat flew. Like, evidently they just needed to beat the heck out of each other for a little bit, and everyone was great. It's an all-boy solution.
I'm trying to picture that with girls.
That would be so fun. Yeah, we gotta get our hair back. Like, no ponytails, like no handles. That's the low blow move. So,
well, it's interesting. Yeah. He says bringing the tensions out into the open and then resolving them is one of the team leader's most important jobs. So obviously, there's a huge lack of communication there between these team members. They were frustrated with each other, but they weren't talking about it. They were bottling it up, and then they
boys don't do that. They just.
Maybe that's why that's the boy approach, is because they don't want to talk about it.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, maybe these guys don't have the best words. I don't know. So, let's see. And then, so here's parentheses, okay? Obviously, this could only work at a military school where the team members were trained in combat. Even then, someone could have been seriously harmed, and Coach P could have been in serious trouble. Ask your team to think about approaches that might work in other contexts. I don't know. I think that's a pretty amazing answer.
Well, I don't know. Vent sessions are, I don't know. Sometimes venting isn't the best way to solve problems, though. You know?
Wait, is the question what else could he have done, or what are we answering right now?
So basically, okay, so these guys, like, they know how to fight and not kill each other because, you know, that's what they do.
Yeah.
So, okay, take this, like, sports team and put it in, like, a college that maybe isn't full of military people. Like, how do you do it there? How do you do it in a high school? Or how do you do it in, like, a minor league situation?
So this solution basically everywhere. Is that
like, what are the, like, say we identify a different kind of context and it's like, okay, what's this context, this situation, how would we do it there? If basically what they want us to do is they want us to say, how do we resolve this without beating the heck out of each other? That's what they're hoping for.
Okay.
Let's see. Since the entire point of the team is to learn how to row together, maybe we make it more basic. Maybe we get a couple other team exercises of where the goal is to reduce pride and increase meekness, because that's teachability. So it would have to be something more like more low key. Maybe he says, all right, like, we're going to go, you know, like, okay, so they're in the college. They're in, like, the elite version of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about the farm teams? What about, like, the minor leagues of their elite class, so to say? What if there's high school rowing things around there, or, you know, some sort of community club? Why doesn't he have those guys who are having teamwork problems go and volunteer and give and, like, you know, chat with some high school kids or some junior high kids that are trying to learn how to do it? And Like make them put in some service hours. That's just a different idea.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think of, you know, what impacts someone to change. And yeah, I think that could be a good idea. But I mean, how would that help them come together?
It's easier to come together when you're humble.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Just kind of make them, it's like a timeout.
Yeah, like everyone needs to collect themselves, calm down a little bit, and you're gonna go be a responsible adult to a bunch of stupid children who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I can
Just for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, and it will help them look outside of themselves, because it sounds like there's a lot of them that are self-centered. They're looking at themselves and like, oh, I'm so picked on. You know, my teammates aren't helping me. But if they're given that opportunity to serve and to look outside of themselves, then it might be just this kind of self-reflection that they need.
Yeah. Have you? I'm sorry, go on.
Did anybody watch Elder Karen's devotional for the young adults on Sunday?
I did not.
I watched it with my son because the high school senior, and he wanted to watch it. So anyway, he said that exact same thing. He said, go out and serve with people that you're wanting to fellowship or do acts of service together, and it builds unity, and it helps both the giver and the receiver. So what you said, Olivia, was, I think, spot on. Doing service together. Mm-hmm. Like here in Arizona, have you guys heard of Feed My Starving Children? It's a great organization, and you can go and service families or wards or school groups, and you just pack meals for kids.
Okay.
Pretty amazing, but it's service, and you're doing it side by side. So that would be,
I think there's even a secondary benefit to the service angle. So sometimes you walk into a group of people, and you're there to like, okay, I'm here to teach or whatever, and then you start seeing things in those people that remind you of you. And you're like, is that what I look like to other people? And you're almost kind of horrified for a minute. And then you're like, I don't want to be like that anymore. I think the ability to look at someone's like, is that what I look like to other people? And kind of like looking out. The benefit of looking outside yourself is sometimes you get to see yourself from the outside. And I think it can be a great tool to help change and improve yourself. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. That's you just kind of want them to see you want them to see from themselves from someone else. What are you doing? Why are you messing this up? And you want them to kind of see, oh, why am I being like this?
Okay, so I think, let's see. All right, so now we get to do feedback and final wrap up. 10 minutes or less, or it's free. So what's the most important thing everyone learned from the case?
Teamwork.
Okay.
Humility.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
I think as a team leader, the coach being able to identify the problem, the underlying problem.
Yeah, being the leader.
Yeah, I think humility is a good one. The dangers of pride and entitlement. Like you can have it all and still mess it up with pride and entitlement.
I would say the danger of letting, like a little thing go for so long, that if the coach would have, for whatever reason, had the courage to stand up and say, like, look, we need to correct this attitude right from the beginning, his team could have had a totally different season. So I think when we see those little things, if we have the courage to stand up and like to be the leader and to help make that change, then hopefully it'll turn out a lot better in the long run.
Okay. All right. They're asking it. So with 0 being an awful conversation and 10 being an amazing conversation, how would you rate the quality of today's discussion? This is literally a question they're having me ask. Like, plead the fifth. I don't care.
I thought it went well. We had a good discussion.
I enjoyed it, and we got 2 meetings for the price of 1. One long one, but still. Let's see. Okay, so, oh my gosh. Ask what you did as a discussion leader. So what did I do that you liked?
You asked good questions.
Thank you very
I was
much.
trying to think of that one word, like asked, like
Inspire?
like, make you think.
I thank you. I humbly thank you for your compliments. Now they want you to insult me. What can I do better next time? Although it's not really an insult, it's just honesty. I could talk less. I should have talked less.
Oh, you know what? You can bring treats next time.
we can bring treats next time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You can't have any.
Yeah, it's like, hold up, here's the treat I've got on my webcam. Oh man. All right. Well then, thanks everyone for attending. We didn't get started till like 30, I think. So, oh, hey, look, we actually went really, really fast, but I thought we had a really good conversation. And if he wants to dock us for this conversation, I guess he can.
I think
No, don't dock us. Okay.
So, all right, like if someone wants to send me the link, I'll do the write-up and, you know, Bob's your uncle.
Okay, I'll stop it and then we can talk about our other thing.
Oh, okay, cool.